That being said,
excuse me, I think you've answered that question. I have another question. When does loyal opposition become obstructionism? I mean, is there some type of a test or a criteria you would propose?
when the loyal opposition is no longer interested in compromise or enhancing the democratic process, that is when it becomes obstructionism. When they're no longer interested in talking to the majority and trying to represent all people, then they cease to truly be a loyal opposition. The loyal opposition can use obstructionist tactics to get their views across. For example, the filibuster is a tactic that the minority can resort to when it is the only way that they can present to the majority their opinions. But when this tactic is simply being done to stop the actions of the majority, such as with President Obama's nominations for the National Labor Relations Board, which were filibustered solely so he could not get them passed, and they led to the fact that the board cannot function because it's missing key members. This would be an example of obstructionism because they are not allowing for the government to function properly just to obstruct the majority's wishes.
Do you really want to hinge the idea of loyal opposition on compromise? That is, could not someone be part of the loyal opposition but refuse to compromise because one believes that the majority's proposal is simply wrong for the country?
An individual could be a loyal opponent of the government while still not necessarily settling for compromise, because if they staunchly hold a particular belief, then they still are being loyal opponents to that particular issue and to the majority party, which is manifested especially in the British form of the loyal opposition and in the American form of the loyal opposition.
The British have this responsible party system, which has the characteristics as you've suggested. We have to stop. Not only will we never know your answer, we'll never even know my question. Obviously, we have comments that are not for your next competition. The next use of this will be for you as citizens in the country, and I think I can speak for the entire panel to say how proud we are and confident we are that you will do well by us with that, because you've clearly studied this, you've clearly thought about it, you have pulled all this together and have really good responses to the questions that we ask, that you've thought about what the loyal opposition is, you've thought about the various definitions, and you have pulled this together in a coherent and interesting way. I thought you did a very good job and represented the state of Florida well. You've thought about it both in terms of the constitutional applications and the more contemporary applications. So relax, you've done a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no doubt in my fellow panelists' mind as to why this team is still competing on Monday after a really thorough presentation like that. I mean, there's much in here that I could find to compliment, but one thing that I'll focus on particularly is the comparative government analysis that you did. I mean, really and correctly, the question specifically says this is coming out of the British tradition, and I think it's evident from your responses that you spent a lot of time, you didn't just brush past that and focus on the American aspects of it, but you really went back and clearly did your homework on what is involved in the British tradition and what we can learn from that and how we're different and how we're the same. And I think there's tremendous importance in looking outside of our own borders to what other countries do. I'm not saying that we need to always agree with them, but we should be aware of them and we should learn from them. And I think this unit has set a great example for all of us here, parents, fellow team members, judges, in acknowledging the importance of other governmental traditions and bringing them into discussions of our own. So congratulations and good luck to you in whatever it is you do next.
Thank you.
They covered the ground here, and as third base, I only have just a few comments to make, and that is, in terms of your prepared remarks, your historical perspective was well done. You also brought in the parallels between the British and our two-party system, or at least raised that parallel, but also, I think, identified some differences in there, which probably led to why our Constitution was written and the British Constitution was not. One was by blood and one was by thoughtful discourse, shall we say. With respect to your responsiveness to questions, the question I asked is a little bit of a vague one, limited government, checks and balances. On the limited government, I thought you were going to get there because you started saying, okay, what is limited government? What is checks and balances? And then you had to relate it back to then loyal opposition and institutes, things that were instituted. Once you got rolling, then you started saying, oh yeah, well there's free speech and there's protection of the Congress to have free speech and all these other, there's actually several other tools in there as well, but you got to it. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.